Camille has been kinda stale for the last few patches because they have been hard nerfing her over and over and over. But now this is the patch where Camille got a rework and it's a time to shine. For ADCs, the star of this patch is definitely Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa received pretty big buffs in my opinion, and she became very strong, especially with the hybrid build and the changes they did to the turrets, where she will do even more damage when she has hybrid damage. Hey, what's up guys, Darkbreaker here and welcome to today's tier list video for patch 4.0. And in this patch we have the new champion Zoe coming out, and I think in 2 sub-patches Zeri is also gonna come out. As far as I know, her release date is probably gonna be for February, and I hope you guys will enjoy this lovely tier list. It's an orientation for you guys, so you guys know my opinion about the current meta and what I think is working really well, or what is the strongest champion in my opinion. And the thing is, the tier list maker, like I was using the tier list maker from Mad Labs, but they didn't add Lilia yet, which came out a while ago, and they or he or her didn't add, I think it's a he because I wrote him once, he didn't add Zoe plus Lilia, and Lilia is a while ago, so I assume he probably doesn't run the website anymore or doesn't update the website anymore. So I think in the future I'm gonna use the new tier maker or the old tier maker I was using beforehand, so I have to do it manually again. But I hope you guys don't mind, and I will just add the champions manually, Lilia and Zoe, in via editing. I'm gonna add them into the tier list because they are, I can add them via the website, so hope you guys don't mind it. In the future I will, if the website is not getting updated, I will just use or the tier maker is not getting updated, I will just use the standard tier maker. So don't mind that, I will add them with the editing program, so hopefully it doesn't look that bad. Zoe is getting released, and in my opinion she is very powerful in the right hands. She's definitely not easy to play, but her playstyle is very hard to deal with because she can just poke from miles away and then she just jumps back with the ultimate to safety. So I feel like her full potential once you've mastered her is super toxic. And I had a few games where I was facing a Zoe and it was really unplayable against her poke in team fights, or when you're getting sieged. She is very good at sieging as well with her long range poke. So I think Zoe is extremely toxic, and I've never played against Zoe on PC, but I can already tell why people don't like Zoe. So you guys can give me your opinion about Zoe in the comments, and definitely make sure to leave a like and subscribe for this lovely tier list if you guys have been enjoying it and you guys want to support the channel so more people will hopefully see this video. And you can also give me your feedback and opinion about the tier list as well, what you agree with and what you disagree with. But reminder, it's my personal opinion. Obviously, if you play in different elos, some other champions might be more hot than what I'm putting, but this is my opinion about high elo especially. So let's get started with the Baron lane tier list. So for the Baron lane tier list, we have a huge change for Camille. Camille has been kinda stale for the last few patches because they have been hard nerfing her over and over and over. But now this is the patch where Camille got a rework and it's a time to shine. I think the changes they added for Camille are very beginner friendly orientated because they want to lower the high skill ceiling for Camille. So the average win rate is gonna be better, and she's more accessible for players that just start to learn this champion. Because I remember when I started playing Camille, she was very hard for me to learn. It took me like 100 games to be okay-ish and like 200 plus to be decent, and like once I had like 500 I was like, yeah, I'm proficient, I'm really good on Camille. So I can definitely, I remember I was an intern on Camille as well. Like, you guys know me by now as a really good Camille player, But I used to be very bad. Like season 1, season 2, when I started playing this champion, I used to be super bad. Or even season 0 when I was playing this champion. Because she was very hard for me to learn. And if she's like, for me, even hard to learn, I can definitely see why she has such a low win rate. Because a lot of players, when I start playing this champion, they're platinum or diamond, they will struggle with the mechanics. And all the changes they did made Camille easier to play. The first ability, where you don't have to cast anymore the true damage part, it's automatically now. The second ability, where the inner range also does the same damage. And the third ability, where you're missing the first part, you get the CD refund to 3 seconds total time. And on top of that, even if you don't hit the second part of the hook shot, you will still get attack speed if you're hitting the champion. So they are definitely making Camille much better, in my opinion. I don't like it, but I can see why a lot of other people are liking it, because it just makes it easier to play. She's kind of losing a bit of damage because of you can't use the second part of the first ability as an auto attack resetter anymore, but at the same time, you got the buff with the MS boost, so I can see Camille much better right now than beforehand in the Baron lane, much easier to play. And I see that I've seen a lot of comments where people are saying, yeah, she's so much fun, she's so much easier to play. So I guess for like the main Camille players, they might not like the changes, but I guess for a majority of other Camille players, they like it. So that's my opinion. I think she's really strong, and in the Baron lane with the changes, she is definitely much better. I'm not talking a lot of Camille because she's my homegirl. My main champion used to be my main champion. I haven't played her in a while because she was so weak, but right now she's really strong in the Baron lane again. The changes they don't necessarily translate to the jungle though, because the MS boost is better for the Baron lane, for the laning phase in the early game. Next one, Aatrox, in my opinion, CC and sustain monster. He is still broken as frick. We don't use the bad F word anymore. I got demonetized the last time. I was like, oh no, because I was saying the F word. So we should be careful. We're using fricking now. Okay, now for Gwen. Gwen is still an absolute strong anti-tank shredder with her true damage, very strong in the late game as well, and has tons of sustain. Jax split push, one of the best split pushers, one of the best duelists, skates like a truck, super strong in my opinion. Wukong, one of the best teamfight orientated Baron laners with his ultimate, has a lot of crowd control and sustain as well, super solid overall. Fiora, one of the best duelists, one of the strongest early games, and one of the best split pushers. Really strong in the 1v1. Gregor, super versatile Baron laner that you can use either as a AP champion or as a tanky champion. Very strong in my opinion, and just a very safe laning phase as well. Now for Jace. Jace in the right hands is a nightmare to lane against. He's probably the strongest laner in the early game in the Baron lane. If you guys know Random, for example, I've played against Random a few times. When you know how to space and zone correctly as a Jace, it's absolutely ridiculous to deal with him. He is... You can't farm. Every time you walk up, you get poked down. Then he has the Hullbreaker. He can even jump on you 1v1 in the early mid game. He is extremely strong, and in the late game, he's still a lot of poking damage. Obviously, in the 1v1, he might fall off against other champions in the super late game, but in the early mid and even in the kinda later stages, he's still very strong. So Jace S plus in, like, I would say his skill ceiling is pretty high, because you need to understand how to space and zone correctly, and I know only a few people that can do it perfectly or do it to a really good level, where you can breathe. You can breathe in the laning phase. Next one, Renekton got buffed again. One of the most solid and well balanced Baron laners in terms of what they can provide. Like, he is so versatile that he can be a split pusher, he can be a good tank in teamfights as well. He is a great duelist, he has the whole package. He's also strong in the early game. Only in the super late game he's falling off. but majority of the times you want to snowball and get the head beforehand. And he received another buff, first ability, more healing and less cooldown, so that's a very big buff, especially now that Randuins and Visage got buffed, very good on Renekton as well, making him super tanky. Akali is one of the best assassins in the game, very good in solo queue, very good hard carry potential in team fights or in general in the game, both in the Baron lane as well as in the mid lane. I think in the mid lane she is even easier to play because she has less hard matchups than in comparison to the Baron lane, but even in the Baron lane, if you're proficient in here, you can make her work against almost any matchup. Next one is going to be Riven. Riven is a very good snowballing solo queue champion, high mobility, high burst damage. Garen, super easy to play, beginner friendly Baron laner. He's a juggernaut that is super tanky, does a lot of damage, and has a true damage execution on the ultimate as well. Now let's move on to the S tier. For the S tier, I'm putting Sett and Darius for the juggernauts. They are close to S plus, to be fair, but I can definitely tell after playing them a few times in this current meta, they will struggle against a lot of compositions where they're getting kited, and they're still very good though, and they're like probably between S plus and S in my opinion. Darius has a lot of sustain, he has true damage as well, and very good carry potential, while Sett is also, he's more tanky, has more crowd control, he has very good playmaking potential with his third ability and the ultimate, and he can tank a lot with the second ability as well. Sion received a buff, but I don't think he's jumping into the Baron lane S plus tier in my opinion. He's still very solid. His 1v1 is better than beforehand, especially with the new tank items. You can run Frozen Heart, run into Omen, or even Dawnshroud on him. All of them are working. He is overall solid in the 1v1, but he's getting countered by a few Baron laners that are really strong in the duel as a duelist. But overall, he's a great split pusher and provides a lot of crowd control. Malphite also with the new items, pretty strong. Overall, great counter against physical damage compositions, and also great in team fights. Shen has the ultimate as the global ability playmaker to join team fights. He has crowd control and is a good split pusher. Aurelia is a great duelist with high skill ceiling, has a lot of bad matchups though in the Baron lane in comparison to the mid lane. Singed received the buff mana lowered on the first ability, and healing regeneration on the ultimate increased in the mid and late game. Overall, he is solid, he scales like a truck, but his early game is kinda weak. On the other hand, we have Pantheon, who is the complete opposite of Singed, that his early game is very, very strong. He's great at snowballing when he gets ahead, or when he uses his ultimate to flank or try to pick people off left and right. But yeah, like I said, he falls off in the mid and late game super hard, and then you can't carry on your own anymore. Warwick is a decent laner with a lot of crowd control. Akshan, strong long-range champion in the early game that can zone people off. Then we have Cannon, very strong in the early game, good in teamfights as well. Yone, kinda weak in the early game, but skates like a truck in the late game. Same for Yasuo. Both of them have the problem that they will face a lot of hard matchups. Whether they're facing a Juggernaut or whether they're facing a tank, they will struggle against those matchups. But overall in teamfights, they have really decent carry potential. Kassadin, early game, pretty weak, but he scaled like a truck in the late game. Diana, overall super solid assassin with great teamfight potential. Tryndamere, in the early game kinda weak, but overall in the late game he becomes super strong once he gets his core items. 3 core items, 1v1, he is very, very strong. Teemo in the early game is extremely oppressive with his zoning and his poke. He kind of falls off a little bit until he gets his core items, and then he becomes pretty strong when he can set up his shrooms. Dr. Mundo is overall decent. He is decent duelist, he can be good frontline and teamfights as well. Doesn't provide too much crowd control though. Zed is an assassin that can work in the Baron lane if you are super skilled on him, but mind the fact that you still have a lot of bad matchups where you have to play it really careful. Jarvan over a super solid Baron laner with a lot of crowd control and is a good frontliner. Olaf is a situational pick that can work in the Baron lane against certain compositions, but he is pretty snowball reliant. Graves is very strong in the late game, is a good split pusher / duelist, but his early game he really needs items and he kind of has to focus on farming up. Nasus is a champion that definitely benefits from the Frozen Heart, Randuins and Visage changes or the buffs. Especially Frozen Heart might be really good on him. I have to try it out. But in my opinion, I think in solo queue you still have the problem that he is a champion that really wants to farm up, but you're playing wildrift, the fast-paced game, and if the enemy ADC is 10-0 while your bot lane is 0-10, you have a big problem because you don't have the time to farm up or the luxury to farm up, because the bot lane will rotate and then they're taking your turret and then you can't really farm. Big problem. Kinda as a Baron lane and solo queue, you need to join teamfights and help people out. You need to get the lead early, and then you need to extend that lead by ganking and trying to deny the enemy bot laner, because majority of the times the enemy bot lane is gonna be fed and your bot lane is inting. So that's the downside of playing a champion like Nasus. Nautilus overall pretty solid, decent crowd control, falls off in the late game, but in teamfights he can be a pretty good frontliner. Vayne and Lucian are very similar to Aksham, but a little bit weaker in the 1v1 early game and not as oppressive and easier to gank. Kayle, in my opinion, is too scaling and too weak in the early game. She's very squishy and very easy to dive and very easy to punish. So that's why I put a C tier. Don't play this champion unless you are masochist, trust me. I've tried her multiple times, and every time I try her, 3 or 4 people are diving me and my own teammates are doing nothing. So I kind of have PTSD playing Kayle, so let's not play it. Okay, drama. There's drama. Wait, let me mute this. There is drama in paradise. There is drama. Wildrift drama. Okay, let's move on to jungle. Okay. Before you guys are flaming me, Lilia is probably S+ still. Lilia S+ still, in my opinion, yes. The jungle clear speed is definitely gonna hurt her. I wasn't sure if I still put her S tier, but I think her mid and late game, and majority of the times, remember, we're in solo queue, Kayle has a high win rate in lower ranks because all of the games are going into late game. So Lilia is a champion that can definitely still get into the late game and scale like a truck and be super strong. She still has very good hyper carry potential, especially once you have 3 items. But the jungle clear speed nerf is definitely gonna hurt her. I can tell this for sure. But I think she's like lower S+ in my opinion. She's not, wow, she's broken, you need to ban her, but she's still, wow, she's kind of scary broken. 3 items are still scary. Be careful, be careful. So, Diana, one of my signature junglers in the season, very good assassin, hyper carry champion. Aatrox, still disgustingly strong, very good crowd control, tanky, sustain, what you want more. Then we have Wukong, sustain, tanky, insane crowd control, very good in teamfights, good ganker. Gragas, very good, keep saying very good. Splendid, exceptional jungler, exceptional AP jungler, guys. Tons of damage, good playmaking potential. Morgana, one of the fastest jungle clear speeds and excellent in teamfights, great poking potential. Shyvana got buffed once again. Shyvana breaker, guys. You farm like you're starving, and then you just shit on them all. That's what they call it. Kha'Zix, he got nerfed. It doesn't matter. Honestly, you don't even notice the cooldown nerf they apparently did against isolation damage. Still, broken assassin, same for Lee Sin. High mobility, broken assassin, snowballing super quickly. Evelynn, And solo queue, very good snowballing champion, great assassin, just one-shots you. If Evelyn gets 2 kills in the early game, the game is pretty much lost if the Evelyn is proficient. And now next one, Olaf. I honestly feel like there are a lot of games where Olaf will struggle. Some games, Olaf is a champion where he is more comp reliant, or like the comp you're facing, than the other Baron laners, but if he has the right comp, he just runs them all down. He used to be one of my favorite junglers, but lately I haven't been playing him that much because I feel like AP junglers are just way more consistent at carrying games, even against those high mobility team compositions. Olaf still, he runs down people, he has true damage, he can ignore crowd control, still very good. Kayn, high mobility assassin, but I can definitely tell you guys that he will struggle against a lot of compositions. S is fine. Nunu, good ganker, good crowd control. Yone, a late game monster with a lot of damage. Darius, face rush buff as well, by the way. Face rush buff. Good carry potential, tanky as well. Echo, kinda weak in the early game, but skates like a truck. I need a new term for skating like a truck. Guys, write down something like new sentence. English limited, guys. Okay, Riven, high mobility champion with a lot of damage. Xin Zhao has the whole package, is tanky, good damage, decent crowd control. Jarvan, ganking machine, good crowd control, very tanky, falls off in the late game. Vi, good damage, tanky, good crowd control. Aurelia, good damage, high mobility, good carry potential. Jace, good damage, good poking. That's it. Fiora, great duelist that snowballs very well and becomes super strong once she gets ahead and farms up. Fizzy in the early game, definitely not that strong. First of all, you need level 5. Secondly, you probably need like 2-3 items minimum before you're popping. But once you have like 3 items, that's when you're just one-shotting people left and right. Next one, we have Dr. Mundo in the jungle. Dr. Mundo in the jungle, honestly pretty underrated. Like once I've tried him, his jungle clear is definitely not that bad. He's pretty fast. His ganks are not that good, but his damage and his tankiness in team fights are solid. Pantheon, a solid jungler. That is extremely good in the early game with his ganking potential, with the ultimate. It is very easy to gank even through wards, especially if you have follow-up and they will immediately crowd control. You just can snowball super hard, but obviously, as I said, he will fall off in the mid and late game. I will say the same explanation for the mid lane as well, so I'm probably gonna skip that part. Warwick, he has good sustain. He has decent damage. His ultimate is good. He's a decent ganker. Biggest problem is his team fights. His team fights is very hard to play correctly. Graves in the early game, not that strong, but he is a very good hyper carry in the late game. Rammus is a ganking machine that is super tanky and provides crowd control in team fights. The downside is if your teammates are bad, you won't be able to carry. Same explanation for Nautilus, minus the fact that Nautilus is not as quick as Rammus as at spam ganking. Amumu, you can play him either a full AP or tanky or hybrid. Great teamfight potential with the ultimate. Very easy to play, but also very easy to punish when you are facing, when you are playing a strong jungler in the early game that can punish Amumu. Jax in the early game is not that strong, but he is one of the best scaling champions. Renekton, pretty much whole package, good damage, decent jungle clear speed, decent ganking potential, but obviously he falls off in the late game. Rengar is one of the... Rengar is a coin flip champion. Either you are God and you're just snowballing completely, you're just one-shotting people left and right, or you are a victim and everyone else is just bullying you. There's no in between. Either you are snowballing or you're useless. That's pretty much it. Oh, Camille. Now, I don't think Camille jungle gets better with the changes. Like, if I play Camille before this patch or Camille in this patch, I think these changes don't benefit the jungle that much. If you guys want to, you can put her S tier, but I think solid A is fine. Jungle clear speed is kind of meh. Ganking potential with the ultimate can be good, high mobility. But team fighting is also okay-ish. It's not excellent or insane, or hyper carry potential is not insane, especially against a lot of team compositions. She might struggle. Zed. It's a Zed jungle hot pick in China still, like I said in the last few tier list. Great snowballing potential, high mobility, good diver as well. Now Masahi, Tryndamere both hit and miss. In the early game pretty weak, but in the late game they are scaling like a truck. Dude, every time I say it, you guys should take a shot. I wonder what will happen. I'm just kidding. Next one, Shen. Shen got nerfed. His jungle clear speed is weaker now. I can definitely see why. I've seen, like, if you watch the Rix versus FMG 7 on Shen jungle, he was just destroying them. I think he got a pentakill and 14 kills or something. His jungle clear speed was too good, and he was very tanky, and he provided a lot of crowd control as well. But they butchered this jungle clear speed. Gwen. I mean, I've seen people saying I should put Gwen A tier. But I feel like, I mean, she can be A tier to be fair. But I feel like I really hate her jungle clear speed. Her jungle clear speed is so slow. She scales really well though. Yes, she scales really well, but if I want to play a really scaling champion, I can play Shyvana as well. I can run people down with Shyvana as well. I farm quicker on Shyvana. I scale harder on Shyvana. I mean, actually, maybe not. Maybe not. Actually, yes, I scale harder than Shyvana. Shyvana scales harder than Gwen, I think. I just dislike the fact that her jungle clear speed is so negative. Now Singed. A cheesy pick, a cheesy jungler. Early game, pretty weak, but obviously he's one of the best scaling champions as well. Has very good ganking potential, by the way. Set. I don't know, why do I even put Set? No one plays Set anyways. I'm the only one who's playing Set jungle sometimes. I think his jungle clear is okay-ish. His ganks are kind of hard to pull off unless you're like hitting E-Flash. He's great in teamfights though. But let's move on to the mid lane. This is the part where I'm like editing Zoe in. Zoe S plus. In my opinion, if you are proficient on this champion, and I know majority of you guys have a bad opinion about this champion, either because you're getting bullied by this champion, or people are inting on this champion because they don't know how to play her yet. Me including, I don't know how to play her yet. I can definitely see the potential that she is super strong and oppressive, and I can definitely see why people hate this champion, because she is a very toxic champion and very hard to deal with. Once she's getting ahead, she just pokes you from far away, she just nukes you, and you can't do anything about it because she's just jumping from Nirvana, hitting you, and then she's backing off, and then it's just GG. FF angle, toxic champion. But yeah, high skill ceiling for this champion. S+ in my opinion. Let's move on to Kassadin. Kassadin is still one of the best late game scaling champion, a high mobility burst damage assassin. Akali, one of the best assassins in the game. Vex, also great assassin with a lot of crowd control. Ari, great assassin with great playmaking, crowd control with the charm and high mobility. Diana, one of the best assassin and insane in team fights. Katarina, let's say it, chat, comments, say it. Katarina gets one reset and she wins it all. We know it. Katarina broken. I hate her. Every time I face enemy Katarina, she's just popping. She's just leading us. Every single time. You have high crowd control team comp, she still works. It doesn't matter, especially in lower ranks. I think she is very, very broken. Let's move on to Mrs. Karma. Karma provides a lot of utility and poke damage, very good in teamfights. Yone, solid in the laning phase and very hard to deal with in teamfights because of his mobility and his damage. Yasuo, one of the best late game scaling champions as well, insane playmaking potential and tons of damage. Aurelia, high skill ceiling, it's easier to play in the mid lane though, and she has very good carry potential in teamfights. I've seen some Frozen Heart Aurelias They were pretty disgusting. Frozen Heart, Visage, Aurelia, tons of sustain, pretty disgusting. Corki got buffed, making it a little bit easier to play. Very good in teamfight with a package, does tons of damage as well, and great laning phase. Jace, same explanation like for the Baron lane. Great poking damage. Pyke, high mobility playmaking champion. In the right hands, Pyke is a monster. He's a monster. Gragas, like I said, very solid champion, great playmaking potential, tons of damage. Galio, good, also great playmaking potential with the taunt, with the ultimate, he can join teamfights. He is a great utility, AP poking tank champion, I guess, in the mid lane. Akshan, one of the most oppressive laning phases, super strong and scales very well into the late game. I said what I had to say about Fizz already at the jungle part. Let's move on. Orianna and Ziggs are great poking champions with a lot of utility in teamfights. Sinch is a very cheesy pick in the mid lane. You just want to shove in the wave, push, and then try to make plays in the side lanes or in the river, trying to catch people, and he becomes a late game monster once he gets like 3+ items. That is an assassin with insane playmaking potential and is a great split pusher as well. In the 1v1, he is very hard to deal with. Twisted Fate is a champion that relies on having a brain. So majority of the wildrift community can't use them. Easy front. No, I'm just kidding, guys. You guys are watching Darkbreaker, so obviously you guys are very intellectual viewers. Nice chat. If you guys want to watch some lovely guides, by the way, I have a pro guide playlist. Check it out. I think Twisted Fate, with good macro and good ultimate usage, he is very good at snowballing the map, making plays left and right, and on top of that, he is insane crowd control with the gold card or with the red card even. Lucian, high mobility, does a lot of damage. Fiora, great duelist, great at snowballing, and she is just very strong in the mid lane against a lot of champions. But if you want to pull off Fiora in the mid lane against ranged champions, obviously it's hard, but if you know how to play her, you can definitely make her work. But it's a situational counter pick, I would say. Pantheon, I already explained it, let's not repeat ourselves. Now Veigar is a champion. There are definitely a few games where I faced him, I was like, wow, facing this champion is unplayable when he has the right setup. Like, he has a front line, he has like 2 tanks, and he's just poking from far away, and he adds with the horizon focus so much crowd control as well. A super scaling champion. The downside is his early game is pretty weak, and his roaming potential is kinda non-existent in the early game. The explanation about roaming potential is something you will hear a few times again for a lot of other champions in the A and B tier departments. Echo, very weak in the early game, but super scaling or super strong in the late game. Brand, let's summarize, I guess. Brand, Morgana, Brand, Annie, Morgana, maybe Lux. I think all of these champions can be great overall in teamfights. They provide either pretty good crowd control or they have good playmaking potential. What I don't like about these 3 champions, Annie, Morgana, Brand, is that their early game is not that strong and their roaming ability against assassins is kind of non-existent. I mean, obviously, if you're face checking a brush and a Carly is in there, you are dead 100%. On top of that, the wave clear is also not as good as I would like to see, as I would want, especially like Morgana. Her early game wave clear is not that good at all. These 3 champions also struggle in the 1v1 against a lot of champions. Aurelion Soul, very hard to play. Roaming potential can either be godly or dog shit. His teamfight can be very good though once, like I said every time, like if he lands the star in a dragon pit or baron pit, he just wins the teamfight. Garen, overall super solid tanky champion in the mid lane. Cannon, honestly, I've seen one Cannon, one trick pony. He really impressed me. He was really cracked. He impressed me. I was like, wow. He roamed well. His team fighting is super strong with the ultimate. Usually I would say his early game can be really good against some elite champions, but can also be very hard against poking champions because he's getting outpoked and outdromed. So I'm keeping him A tier, but I've seen some Canon mid lane. I've seen one Canon mid lane OTP where I'm like, he makes it look S tier. But that's what I'm saying. If you master the champion, you can make him look S tier. You understand me? Lux. Hey, Lux has great playmaking potential with a bind, good poking damage. I feel like in the early game, her roaming potential is not that good. And I love champions that can roam, snowball on the map, make plays happen in the early game. Because if you are just sitting under your turret doing nothing, then the enemy mid laner is just clapping the whole map. Next one, Seraphine. Same explanation as the others, but weaker. Kale, same. Like the Baron lane explanation, minus the fact that she has more breathing room and more farming room in the mid lane, because it's not as easy as in the Baron lane to punish her. Let's move on to ADCs. For ADCs, the star of this patch is definitely Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa received pretty big buffs in my opinion, and she became very strong, especially with the hybrid build and the changes they did to the turrets, where she will do even more damage when she has hybrid damage. Beforehand, in my opinion, she was very strong already as plus, but now even stronger, buffing her AD scalings and base AD, and you guys know base AD buffs are always crazy, and on top of that also the Q changes on top of that. So I think on Q they increased the AD ratio by 10% or something. Let me check really quick. Kai'Sa 10% on AD ratio. Yeah, look at this. Base attack damage. Attack damage per level. Okay, that attack damage ratio 5%, and then cast some scales with attack speed, so the second ability comes out even quicker. Oh, no, Rito, what are you doing, Rito? No. I don't want to see Kai'Sa in my games. Then on top of that, they buff Samira, the Katarina of ADCs. She has one good ultimate. Everyone is dead, pentakill. Varus, super solid, consistent, long-range poking champion with a lot of damage. Ezreal, Corki, Vayne, Lucian, high mobility beast with a lot of damage. Hard to deal with. Very hard to deal with. Ezreal, long range poke. Corki, package, teamfight disaster. Vayne, invisibility, condemn, true damage. Lucian, high mobility, burst damage. Tristana, early game is okay, late game absolute disaster angle. It's FF angle. When she gets into late game, she's Lulu on top of her or Yumi on top of her. My rockets, boom, bye bye. Next one, Saya. Saya, in my opinion, a very strong ADC, super solid, great self peel. Caitlyn, a long range, super solid ADC as well. Jinx, her early game is pretty weak, but her late game can be very strong like Tristana. But why do I put her S in comparison to S+? Because Jinx is much weaker than Tristana in the early game, in my opinion. Draven, one of the best early game ADCs, very good at snowballing in the laning phase, but also hard to play with lack of mobility / dashing abilities. Jhin is a solid ADC with great laning phase, but he kind of falls off in the late game damage wise in comparison to other hyper carry ADCs. Misfortune, AP got buffed, but I don't think AP Misfortune is that good. I kind of used her for clickbaits because I know you guys will click on it, but in my opinion, she's very strong in the early game, kind of falls off in the mid and late game, but she's still playable with a good ultimate, obviously. Lack of mobility or lack of dashing abilities, so if you get on her, she's pretty easy to kill. Senna is a solid ADC, doesn't do as much damage as other ADCs and is pretty scaling. Ashe is, in my opinion, probably even better as a support, because then you can abuse her utility value, while as an ADC she doesn't do as much damage, but she has some playmaking potential with a nice arrow. Karma, Lux, Orianna, and Ziggs are great APCs with a lot of damage and utility. Brand Morgana are very similar, minus the fact that they are weaker in the early game and don't have as much range and are easier to kill in the teamfights. Let's move on to support, and I think you guys want to hear my opinion about dawnshroud. Have to say, I think dawnshroud can be good on some tanky playmaking supports like a Thresh, Nautilus, Gragas, Alistar, maybe every champion with a low cooldown that benefits from the passive the most, but the passive is honestly not that strong. Like max, like let's say full item build every time you crowd control someone, they will take like 130 additional magic damage. So plus the resistance, it's not that much damage. It's like, hey, maybe you do like 70 or 80 bonus damage, or 60 even. Like, depends on who you're hitting, but it's honestly not that much. Stat-wise, I think it's okay. It's fine, but there are so many other support items or so many other tank items that are also value-wise really good. Like, look at Iceborne Gauntlet, 30 ability haste, armor, additional damage. I think Iceborne Gauntlet is way better than dawnshroud, by the way, to get in the early game. Or even Sieger. You get Sieger, Varmox, maybe Iceborne, or maybe you're getting other support items before dawnshroud. I think dawnshroud is an item you maybe get late game, because then you benefit the most from the passive. But yeah, let's talk about the champions. For Karma, as plus tier, obnoxious, high utility champion, insane in team fights, and she can carry games on her own when you're building her poking utility build. Then Yuumi healing. I hate this champion. I always ban the champion. She is my most banned champion right now, because if she buffs someone, that champion becomes unplayable. Thresh, Gragas, Nautilus, Alistar, Rakan, Galio are very good playmaking champions. Super tanky, great roamer, great in teamfights as well. Pyke, either you are... Oh my god. I was thinking about lowering Pyke. If you are a good Pyke, and the enemy Pyke is always a good Pyke, then your playmaking potential and your snowballing potential are crazy. But my Pyke in my team is always dogshit. My Pyke is F tier. Enemy Pyke is S tier. There's no in between. Lux, great damage dealer, good, decent utility. Senna in the right team comp can be okay. I had so many people want Soraka S. I'm gonna put it S, so you guys are happy. Senna S, great utility in the right team comp. Janna, great enchanter, great peeler, great roamer. Nami, good playmaking potential with bubble and ultimate, good peeler as well. Lulu, great enchanter to buff people up, but doesn't reach the same level of cancer like Yuumi. Ashe, great playmaking potential with the ultimate and provides a lot of utility. Soraka with the healing can be very hard to deal with, but she kinda requires the right team comp. Leona, Braum are also decent playmakers, but I feel like they are kinda weaker, a little bit weaker than the other playmakers I've put into S tier. Because they are more single target. Except when they are using their ultimate, but the others don't require the ultimate for their insane crowd control combo. Set, I think in the right hand can be very, very strong. Good playmaking potential, is also decently tanky. Yeah, Blitzcrank, either hit and miss, you need to hit your hooks. But I really don't like Blitzcrank players, to be fair. I don't like it. Sona, Seraphine, I think they're weak. Morgana, I think she's also weak. They are okay. But they are not strong. And I know a lot of people in the comments are like, no, I have no idea. What are you talking about? It's my opinion, guys. But yeah. I think that's gonna be it for the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think the highlights of the patch are definitely the Camille rework, the Kai'Sa buff, Zoe's got added. Zoe is here. You guys can imagine it. And Lilia mid lane, by the way. I think Lilia mid lane is probably just A tier. She's very scaling, and I think her wave play is not good in the mid lane at all. I think if I had to put Lilia in the mid lane, A tier, but I think I prefer her as a jungler. And some people will ask me about Zoe support. I have no idea. I don't think it's that good. You don't? Yeah, I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's good. It's very easy to kill her. It's very easy to punish her. I don't think it's good. I think just stick to mid lane. But yeah, that's gonna be it for my lovely tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And write down your opinion below in the comments. And I see you guys next time. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. Share some love, guys. See ya.
Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.